to the Challenge to Change podcast. My name is Hazel, and this podcast is all about the little changes we can all make that will have a positive effect upon planet Earth. If you're new here, welcome. If you've listened before, welcome back. The Challenge to Change podcast has been brought to you on behalf of ANSA Environmental Services. To find out more about ANSA, please visit ANSA, which is ansa.co.uk. Let's get into the podcast episode. Welcome to this episode of the Challenge to Change podcast. I am here with Leslie, who is one of my wonderfully esteemed colleagues from ANSA Environmental Services. And Leslie, welcome, Leslie, first of all. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we are going to be talking today about allotments, a little bit about composting, and sort of gardening more generally, really. So Leslie, you are a bit of an expert, I think, aren't you, when it comes to allotments?
Well, I wouldn't say an expert, but I do enjoy my allotment. I've had it for nearly 10 years now. Wow. And the satisfaction I get from having an allotment is really immeasurable. The taste of the produce, the people I meet, it's all encompassing, outdoors, rain or shine. It just gives me a great sense of satisfaction to grow my own vegetables and have the wildflower garden there where you can see the bees and the butterflies doing their job. I think that's an important part of having an allotment, is having that area as well for the wildlife. Yeah, for sure.
So you've got vegetables, but you've also got sort of flowers as well. So you've got kind of that balance of both. Fantastic. So do you feel like a sense of well-being then through working on the allotment? Is it kind of good kind of for mental health and that kind of thing?
Absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong, you've got to put the work in. There's going to be weeds. You've got to turn over the soil if you wish, or if you're no dig, that's even better for the environment. But there is the feeling of planting a tiny little seed and then producing food that you can take home and clean it off and cook or bake with the vegetables. So it's very versatile what you can do in a plot in this area. With the season and the different weather that can throw challenges in every growing season. So
wow, I'm always so impressed when I see your amazing salads and soups that you have at work, which I know very often contain the produce that you've made yourself. And I'm always like, wow, because you always have such great healthy things in there as well. So
sure.
it's you can kind of see that, almost get a sense of that process from the growing and all that effort that you've put in to it finally on your plate, or in this case, a reusable tub that you bring into the office, of course.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Amazing. Yeah. So I think you've said to me before that you do some composting as well over on your allotments. So tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, these are man-made compost areas.
Okay.
So it's reclaimed pallets. So I've got 3 actually. So I rotate. So whilst one is breaking down from the previous year, I'm filling the next compost. So I've always got a rotation of compost. And really, we chatted earlier, Hazel, your compost is only as good as how you manage it, really. And to be honest, I don't manage mine as well as I could. I don't turn it, but I am conscious about what I put in it and try and sort of spread it out, make sure it's not too big or thick bits of twig that's not going to break down, so that when you come to open your compost bin area the following year, I'm finding great big twigs. I'm thinking, why did I put that in? So you kind of remind yourself that actually getting rid of these twigs is an easy option to shove it in there, but actually
it's not going to break down.
But actually it's amazing. It's an incredible process, because it starts off quite high at the top where the pallets end the sides, but by the time you actually use it, it's like nearly beyond halfway down. So it actually breaks right down, and it's the finest compost.
That's amazing.
If you do it right, that is.
If you do it right, which is tricky.
Picking out the twigs that I was didn't process properly.
Yeah,
so.
but I'm impressed with you. So, did you say you've got 3 compost?
3 areas.
Wow, that's awesome. So, so you can, like you say, you can kind of rotate them and what have you. So, how do you go on with things like your greens and your browns? Because I know that's important, isn't it, to have that balance?
I'm not so careful about the greens and the browns, but I just make sure that it's. I think for me, I've in the past put twigs in that aren't going to break down within the year, and so it's all this sort of potato shaws, the carrot tops, the greens. I know you can cook with them, but I don't.
Yeah.
And anything that's gone off goes in there, and any cuttings, and if there's dead leaves, I won't put too much in, because then it'll be too tough to break down.
Okay. Is that so? I've heard a little bit recently about, is called leaf mold. So it's like a different. Not that I'm an expert on that, but I watched a video on leaf mold. So a different type of process, perhaps, maybe.
Yeah, I think some people have got areas where they just keep leaves. So if you've got a tree close by or a hedge that's not evergreen, the leaves they would put in a separate area, but it takes longer to break down. Okay. Yeah. Therefore, if you've got too many leaves in your compost, it's going to affect how it breaks down for your next growing season. So ideally, I want to open that compost bin when I'm starting to plant things out after I've got my seedlings ready to go in the ground.
It's amazing.
In spring. Yeah, it is. It's incredible. And my favourite time is when I've grown all my seedlings, they're big, they're going out, and the whole area becomes green again. Because right now it looks mostly brown. It's got some winter veg in. I try and get some winter veg in so that there's always something to pick and process, cook, and
something to eat as well.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think as well the great thing about growing your own as well, that you don't have any of that thing about packaging. If you sort of thinking about the campaign from Love Food Hate Waste, where they're talking about buying loose fruit and vegetables rather than buying it in packaging. Obviously, brilliant campaign, which of course we support here at Answer. But it can be difficult sometimes, I think, for people to buy loose fruit and veg. It depends on what those options are, what the shops are locally, what the supermarkets are doing. But of course, growing your own, you've got to transport it. Back to you, whether you're growing in the garden or an allotment, but you've got to, but you're free of all of that packaging.
Absolutely. And it tastes different as well, because it's not mass produced. And there is the farm shops that grow right there, and they're not mass produced, so they're growing at their own speed, but there's no packaging at all. And I pick what we're going to eat, so I don't harvest everything all at once. So everything, it might be growing a bit bigger on the plot, but I just pick what I'm going to eat. And
amazing.
This time of year, I will be looking to harden off the marrows, leave them in the greenhouse, and then I store them in the garage in a net. And then during the course of the winter, I'll make a soup. Fantastic. Every now and again. So I've really, my mission is to have something to eat from the allotment all year.
Really?
But it's more so in the summer, when you've got the salads, tomatoes, that you could make a meal with. But this time of year it's more like leeks, winter veg.
Winter veg. So it's seasonal produce then, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
So do you think then, that's interesting, so do you think then through the allotment you are more eating in terms of the season? So you're kind of following those seasonal changes, which we in the past we followed them without, we weren't looking, there weren't, we couldn't get things from overseas. We could only get things that were locally produced, because obviously there wasn't the facility to transport things. So you're kind of doing that, really, aren't you?
Yes.
Sort of naturally. That's amazing. I love it.
I mean, we do buy other veg, course, and luxury items, like, I don't know, avocado. I'm never going to buy a grow avocado. No. So, if you want those luxury items, that's, that's what you need to go and buy. But You can still buy them loose, but you know, I'm conscious also where they come from as well, because I do grow a lot of excess veg as well, and I'm so happy to sort of share them with my friends and neighbours, and I do talk about the food miles as well, which is it's not even mile, you know, it's like I don't know,
round the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's no journey that the food I grow, it doesn't have to go anywhere. So it's not been in a vehicle. It's just right there. It's gone on my bike on the way home.
on your bike as well. I mean, it doesn't get more kind of carbon neutral than that, does it? That's amazing. No, I think, I mean, I'm not a gardener at all, and I always feel like, you know, when I hear you talking about it and other people sort of, I think, oh, you know, it's really, I really should get more involved in that, just to see that process of, you know, from seed to you know, to growing it to you know, on your plate or in your reusable tub. Reusable, of course, important.
As well, you know, like as a team, we go up to a lot of schools and community groups, and you know, we talk about having a window box or a pot outside your front door. You know, not everybody's got the space, but you know, even growing a tomato plant and you know, seeing it going from a tiny seed to something you can eat is quite incredible. And I think it's good to educate people where food comes from. And what the process is that goes into the food production, and also the length of time as well. And I think that message links into the cost of food right now, and to value food more, really put value on it, because it takes such a lot of time, you know, rainwater, you know, to actually grow a product, a vegetable or a fruit. And that is when it comes back to putting a value on food for people to appreciate when we're out talking to groups.
That's a really good point. Yeah, it's a really good point, because it does put that value on food, doesn't it? Because you're seeing that whole process. You're seeing that value in it as it grows from the seed or different ways. But still, the point is, it's that process. It's growing. It's becoming what it's going. I think it involves you in that process that sometimes we are quite separate from as consumers of food, as consumers of, you know, if you perhaps do your grocery shopping online, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There are lots of people involved short on time. No, there is value in that, but it does take us away from that, you know, kind of almost like the process of kind of seeing that food kind of turning into what it's going to be. It connects you to it more, doesn't it?
For sure.
Amazing.
I have an apple tree on my allotment, which I feel really lucky about. And when I got the allotment, there wasn't much on it, and you know, actually you make it into what you want it to be. I grow what I want to grow, what we're going to eat. But the apple tree, every year it blossoms, and with a bit of pruning in the winter, it blossoms and it produces apples. And I always think, wow, you know, when it comes to the point when the apples are ready, it's actually fruit. It's just like how it looks in the shops, and I just think how lucky I am to have the apple tree, and you know, this plot where I can spend time and grow. And it is about putting the work in, planting the seeds at the right time, making sure they're watered. But you know, it brings such joy, and you know, saves a lot of money in food as well.
That's we have not sort of touched on that so far, but of course there is of course a cost saving there, isn't there? You know,
definitely.
You know, obviously, I guess you've got to buy the seeds, you know, unless you have some donated to you or something like that. Who knows? But yeah, definitely cheaper.
Yeah, and I think there are seed swap forums that you can join, and a little pack of seeds will, you know, you can get so much from this one little seed within a pack of 20. You know, say courgettes, and courgettes it's so easy to grow, and they all seem to come at once, and you've got courgettes coming out your ears. Courgette cakes and courgette 10 ways, but actually it's a pack of seeds that can grow so much food. So it's growing what you are going to eat as well.
So you can you're choosing what you're going to enjoy. I've got a question for you now. I'm going to throw at you, and I think you'll know the answer. So a courgette then, is a marrow just a very large courgette, or is it a totally different vegetable?
It's the same family. Same
Okay.
family. But the courgette is the softer skin that you
Right.
and more tender. You get it more in the early season. I'm not an expert grower, but I would plant my marrows later in the season
Okay.
so that they're now ready for this time of year, which
Yeah.
we're in November.
Mhm.
And for anyone listening to this and at another
Another
time.
time, yeah. Good point.
So then the skin would harden, and therefore you can store them for longer over the winter.
Right.
So they are the
okay.
same family, and that's how I
That's how you
differentiate between
differentiate.
the two. So, but the courgettes I grow green and yellow, and when they're just coming through for the first
Yeah.
growth in spring. When they're ready to eat are just
Amazing.
delicious, very sweet. Whereas marrow's more a meaty sort of
It's
flesh.
more kind of there is a more kind of bitterness to it, isn't it? So, but would you? I guess you could use them in similar ways. So if you're,
I do.
yeah. So if you're making a cake using a courgette, I guess you could use the marrow maybe because you put sugar in the cake anyway.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. I presume otherwise it'd be quite
Yeah,
be a
actually,
healthy cake, but maybe not that enjoyable.
it's like the marrow cake, like the carrot cake or the beetroot cake that you can use these vegetables in cakes. But I think I'd probably use marrow for soup.
Okay.
Keep them savoury. Oh, I'm
keep
sure
your
there's, but I would generally use that vegetables that way. But I'm sure you can make marrow cake.
Yeah, I'm sure you brought courgette cake with courgette in before. Have you? Have I made that up?
No, I have. I didn't
one
this year.
step in.
I would say this year. So 2024 has been a really poor growing season.
Okay. Right.
Purely because if you think about the summer we've had, it's been not the greatest summer.
No.
There's been bouts of sun, but it's not been consistent. So
Yeah.
I haven't had excess veg this year to get all enthusiastic about making loads of courgette loaves and bringing them everywhere I go. But no, it's been a poor growing season, and normally I would have lots of beetroot left over. I'd make chutney.
Yeah.
And I don't have as many marrows. The tomatoes they didn't go as well. So a lot of things didn't do so well because of the weather. And I do think if you think about the farmers that are growing food to put on the table, large scale commercially, they've also had the challenge of this weather. And every year there's going to be a different challenge. If it's too hot or it's hot early and not so you just got to go with the seasons, the growing season. And actually every year something on my plot doesn't do as well, and in that case you just have to move on to the next year. And
plus I guess it's useful then that you've got those compost areas as well, so if it doesn't do so well and you actually can't use it, then at least you can take it back to nature and start that process of growth again.
That's the thing. So my compost, once I think I'm nearly ready to close it over. So I actually talking to you today, Hazel, I'm going to try and turn my compost to help it break down better. But I usually just put on the cover and leave it, and then.
So you might do a little bit of turning.
You may have inspired me. You have.
I'm impressed that I've inspired you without doing any composting myself. So as much as I absolutely love doing things to help the planet, I'm not, as I've said before, not particularly green fingered, which is strange really because my parents are. They do home compost. They've got quite a large garden. But yeah. But we'll never say never. Maybe I'll be inspired too.
Maybe start by growing a few tomatoes out there in your back garden.
I thought they were hard to grow though. Tomatoes. Is that not
easy enough.
Okay.
I'll bring you some seedlings next year.
But to kind of inspire me into action or nudge me into action. We'll
do a deal. I'll turn my compost and I'll give you some. Give it a go.
We'll do it. Well, I think this has been super interesting, as it always is when I talk to you, Leslie, and thank you so much for your time today. That was me, Hazel Lees Dixon, talking to Leslie Innes, who is a colleague of mine here at Answer Environmental Services. I really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Challenge to Change podcast, and of course I will return for another episode really soon. Bye for now.